Is this the precursor to the 1930s, once again, the Inquisition and the slaughter of Jews we saw back throughout the ages?
I sincerely hope not, and I think it's worth emphasizing what an historic breakthrough President Trump has just achieved. Of course, it's very difficult indeed to say that there'll be lasting peace, but this is a major success, and the release of the hostages represents a major victory for American diplomacy. Remember, that also reflects the exercise of American strength. President Trump campaigned last year on peace through strength. One reason that this has happened is that he exercised that strength against Iran at a decisive moment. But what you see in those polls is a huge shift in sentiment against Israel, especially amongst Democrats and especially amongst young people. And that is one reason that this peace was so urgently needed, because although Israel has been winning militarily in the Middle East, it has been losing in international opinion in a way that is truly alarming to any friend of Israel, and I'm certainly one of those. There was a moment at which I began to fear that Israel was heading for pariah status comparable with South Africa at the time of apartheid. So it's very important that President Trump has brought peace, not only for the Middle East, but for Israel's standing in the world.
This show's also been an unabashed friend and supporter of Israel, and I think also an unabashed skeptic, or I should say warning sound, for the rise of anti-Semitism in America. Where do these movements, and we've seen them throughout time, that blame the Jews for whatever the ills of society are, and then take it a step further to say that the answer to the ills are either the murder of Jews or the exile of Jews, violence against them? Where does that come from? Where does that come from?
Well, Leland, there are really three currents of anti-Semitism that one can see today. One can trace a very long way back, and that let's call the anti-Semitism of the right, which takes a view of Jews that is based partly on racial theory and a conspiracy theory about the power of the Jews that one can see as far back as the 19th century, and of course, which culminated with the rise of Hitler and the catastrophic events that led to the Holocaust. But that's only one current. I can see it reviving, I'm afraid to say, in elements of the right in Europe as well as in the United States. It's really depressing to see the return of anti-Semitism on the far right of the American political spectrum. I deplore that. But I don't think that's the most important thing going on today. There's a second enormously important force here, and that is the anti-Semitism of the left, the so-called progressive or woke left. And what they're doing is drawing on a tradition of anti-Zionism, anti-Israel, which really goes back to the Soviet Union and the Cold War. But it's become more radical on American campuses, especially in the last decade or so, so that we now have the strange phenomenon of Queers for Palestine, radical LGBTQ activists somehow aligning themselves with the cause of the Islamists. And that brings me to the third force, or the third form of anti-Semitism. That is the anti-Semitism you see right now on your screens, and that is the anti-Semitism of the Islamists, those who stand explicitly in support of Hamas and who celebrated October 7th, that atrocity 2 years ago, which represented a kind of trailer for a second Holocaust. And that third current of anti-Semitism, let's call it the Islamist current, is today the most powerful one. You see on both sides of the Atlantic that it's usually Muslim immigrants who are making these protests happen, even if they have support from the useful idiots of the far left.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.